Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Church in Ocean Park. It is good to see you on this day. We are uh, later on today, Yom Kippur will begin, and we're also thinking about the turning of the world, the equinox. Did anybody take an egg and have it stand up like that? I saw a picture of somebody that did that. Uh, I've never tried because, well, maybe I should try before I'm going to make some scrambled eggs because we know what could happen. But good morning and welcome, everybody. So, for our opening song today, a song by Pete Seeger. Well, the words are by Pete Seeger, and it's actually based on the biblical book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 to 8. And for you Bible geeks out there, the book of Koheleth. Just, all you Bible geeks. That would be me. Here we go. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And the time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. Here we go. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace. A time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time of peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kim. We were so blessed with your music. I really appreciate that. I am Reverend Janet Gollery McKithen, and I welcome you to this unique multi-religious community that is focused on helping to create a more equitable and sustainable world for all. We are multi-religious. We are not focused on a single religious tradition. We are actually made up of people who are Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, atheist, and some people who are combinations, and some people something else altogether. And we are single, married, divorced, gay, transgender, living comfortably, and some living on the edge. We welcome people who are fidgety or very focused, just woke up, or just got out of prison. We don't care if you're more religious than the Pope, or if you haven't been to mosque since you were a teenager. We welcome soccer moms, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegans, junk food eaters. We welcome you if you are in recovery or if you're still addicted. We welcome you if you're having problems, or you woke up soaring on eagle wings, or a little bit of both. We welcome you if you like organized religion, or if you're really repelled by it. We welcome you if you work too hard, if you don't work, or you can't spell. We welcome you if you're inked, if you're pierced, or both. We especially welcome you if you're standing in the need of prayer right now this morning. If you've been hurt by a religious community and you're here very cautiously, we hope you find this place to be a place of healing and love. We welcome tourists, seekers, and doubters, and we especially welcome you. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park. We begin by acknowledging that most of us right now are sitting on stolen land. In Santa Monica, the land was taken violently from the Chumash, the Quiche, and the Tongva peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, forced assimilation, enslavement, and destruction at the hands of U.S. colonial settlerism. We also acknowledge that our communities and our country was built on the backs of people who were stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. And we acknowledge that we benefit from that labor that has never been repaid. In our acknowledgement, let us commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a more just and equitable world through the struggle of changing how we do some things that we see as normal, but are actually systemically hurting people. We acknowledge all of these people and our part in it. We all have biases, and it takes intentionality to build compassion for people whose lives are very different from our lives. We seek to work together at the Church in Ocean Park to cross boundaries, to tear down unjust systems, and build new relationships of healing and love. This morning, you'll hear from a variety of people, especially during community sharing. If you hear something you disagree with, know that they don't speak for the church in Ocean Park in its entirety. They speak for themselves as a part of the church, and that your voice is just as important as whoever it was that just spoke. Thank you for being a part of this community this morning. Thank you for helping break barriers and build more compassion. We need more compassion. Thank you so much. We center ourselves each week with a chant by Thich Nhat Hanh. I have arrived. I am home, in the here and in the now, 3 times. Let's take a deep breath and center ourselves. Be ready for whatever can be brought to us this morning. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. Welcome to the Church in Ocean Park. We're glad you're here.
And I know I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, Reverend Janet. Well, for a reading for today, it'll actually be a reading and then a song. This comes from a prayer that is said on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It is Hineni, here I stand. And there's a tradition that during one of the additional services of the high holidays, uh, that the cantor, leader of song, says, "Here I stand." And it's an outpouring of hopes and written by an anonymous medieval cantor. And it's really tremendously powerful. And what this, the website where I got this, it's wonderful. It's called The Velveteen Rabbi. And this rabbi did an interpretation of the text. So this is not a translation of that text, but an interpretation. And reciting it in front of the community as a way of thinking about it and taking the message to heart. And it presents the themes with the rabbi's own words and metaphors. So here is this interpretation of the Hineni prayer. Here I stand, painfully aware of my flaws, quaking in my canvas shoes and in my heart. I'm here. I'm here on behalf of this community, even though the part of me that's quick to knock myself says I am not worthy to lead them. All creation is nurtured in your compassionate womb. God of our ancestors, help me as I call upon your mercy. Don't blame this community for the places where I missed the mark, in the actions or in my heart, in my thoughts or in my praying. Each of us is responsible for our own teshuvah, our own turning. Help us remember that without recriminations. Accept my prayer as though I were exactly the leader this community needs in this moment, as though my voice never faltered. Free me from my own baggage. Amen to that. Free me from my own baggage that might get in the way. See us through the rose-colored glasses of your mercy. Transform our suffering into gladness, dear one. May my prayer reach you wherever you are for your name's sake. All praise is due to you, dear one, who hears the prayers of our hearts. Well, whew, quite a powerful prayer. Now, the song, and this is a song that was suggested on the from the Jewish Forward. And they said, there are times when you're going to do song that's a little bit different. Said, now this, of course, also isn't a translation of the prayer, but it captures some of the spirit of the prayer. And well, you may remember this from the doo-wop days. Yes, indeed. So you're going to have to help me out with a little bit of doo-wop singing this morning. The song, The Great Pretender. All right, here we go. Oh, 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 yes, I'm the great pretender. Pretending that I'm doing well. My need is such, I pretend too much. I'm lonely, but no one can tell. Oh, 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 yes, I'm the great pretender. Adrift in a world of my own. I play the game, but to my real shame, you've left me. I grieve all alone. All right, now I need y'all to, do a little bit of doo-wop here. To real is this feeling of make believe, too real when I feel what my heart can't deceive. Oh, 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 yes, I'm the great pretender. Laughing and gay like a clown. Oh, I seem to be what I'm not. You see, I'm wearing my heart like a crown, pretending that you're still around. Too real is this feeling of make believe. Too real when I feel what my heart can't conceive. Oh, 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 yes, I'm the great pretender. Just laughing and gay like a clown. I seem to be what I'm not. You see, I'm wearing my heart like a crown, pretending that you're still around, pretending that you're still around. And I should probably say, woo! The great presenter. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful reading and for the song. Mine's known that song for very many years.
Oh,
I get the opportunity to introduce our friend again. Barry Goldstein is here with us again. I'm so excited. I'm really happy that he's here. He's an amazing, resilient human with some really varied skills. He runs a regular grief support group at ICAR, his Jewish community, which we all know is such important work, grief group. And he is an avid board gamer. He also designs board games and thinks they could save the world. They promote pro-social lessons and are good for the mind and for interpersonal relationships. They give us models for turn taking, which is a very underappreciated skill. I agree with that. Turn taking. He is a semi-professional chef and he loves gadgets. He's an avid 3D printing hobbyist. He also plays the ukulele and has many of them in his home. And someday, hopefully, we'll be able to hear one. He has an incredibly broad array of skills. Barry is well-rounded and grounded. He's serious, but he's also fun. He's extremely intelligent, but he's also humble. I am so blessed by our connection. Please welcome Barry back during this holy season to speak about living in liminal spaces. Welcome back, Barry.
thank you. Thank you. I would like everyone to know that I did not write any of that introduction. It was too flattering for me to take credit for, but I do appreciate it. Yeah, liminal spaces. So liminal spaces is the phrase comes from the realm of aesthetics and the realm of design. Because you can imagine that whenever our space, whenever our life is contained by boundaries, as they are here, we can see there's that very thin black line between us all and these little Zoom windows that we've been living in for years now. Seems like many, many years. And we are currently a church without a space. And we exist in a liminal space. And so much of our culture and society right now is in this beautiful, tense, in-between space. I think of gender rights and sexual identity rights and gender identity rights. Those three spaces are in such flux in the times of our lives. And we see tremendous advances, we see tremendous setbacks, but so much of our world in these last few years have been in these in-between spaces, in between light and dark, in between right and wrong. And what I'm here today to talk about is how to survive those moments. Because there's something really lovely about the sunset. And there's something poetic about the boundaries between us, the things that make us not the same. are just as fascinating as the things that make us the same. And yet, so many people go into emotional turmoil when they're in these in-between spaces. And for me, this has been a year of significant in-between spaces. Around 6 months ago only, someone else had my heart in their hands. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean that fully, literally. It was opened fully, not in a lovely poetic way, but in a meat and bone sort of way. And my heart was held and my life was saved. And I was in this tremendously frightening liminal moment, especially the night before the surgery. And you guys know, you can imagine and put yourself into that place. The surgery was routine for the professionals, the nurses, the doctors. But for me, I knew I was going through that moment. And it was terrifying. And it has set me on a year of anxiety and depression that I've been managing and struggling with. You know, I'm a clinical psychologist in addition to a ukulele player. And I've been very sensitive and trying to monitor it and care for myself, but it's so hard. And I thought I'd talk briefly today about why. And, you know, to me, I often, when I'm helping someone go through change, I remind them, my message today is to remind you that we sometimes fool ourselves into thinking that there are two forces that act on us. There's forces which push us forward. We need to raise money for a roof. You know, that pushes your community forward. There is injustice in the world. We see someone hungry on the street, and I don't care who you are, you got to do something with that. You know, you're presented with something that pulls you forward, and maybe your solution is to ignore it, but you have to say to yourself, what if it were me? What if this was my child? Who loves this person? It pulls you forward. And this action in our lives, it's the one that makes us change when we're drinking too much or when we are too sad to get out of bed. There's a force that pushes us forward into this world. That's a familiar one. The second one is slightly subtler, which is the force that pulls us backwards. And we know this. Who of us wouldn't want to be in the arms of a long lost loved one from our childhood? I'm thinking of my aunt and some of my father's brothers who were just lovely people, and they made me feel safe and at home. And there's something in my life that always draws me back to my grandmother's chicken soup, you know, or her ability to open up a fridge and feed a dozen people at the drop of a hat. I don't know how that generation did it, but I long for that time because there's a part of me that wishes to comfort. And in our lives, we're routinely spiraling upwards, but we're always visiting the same chapters. The forces that push us forward in achievement and drive and ambition and justice and change, and the forces that want us to be one and to be pulled in and pulled together. And here, during this holy moment in the Jewish holidays, we are in between the time of Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, the new year, and the time of judgment, the Day of Atonement, our final chance to plead with God to put us in a book that will grant us life again for this year. There's a third force that acts on us, not just the new year and not just the old and not just our newest chapter and our familiar ones. There's the force of emotional inertia, the one that locks us into place, that keeps us paralyzed, that keeps us afraid. And in many ways, these holidays, these days of awe, right? That's one of the nicknames for these days. There's the high holy days, there's the high holidays, there's the new year, there's the Day of Atonement. But my favorite term for this liminal moment are the days of awe. And the songs and the moments of this time are meant to inspire us, to lift us up, so that at the very least, that inertia will no longer hold us. And then we get to make the choice to move forward in bravery into the newest chapter, or to retreat, which sometimes is necessary when you're downtrodden. A retreat into love is a healthy place, and sometimes an ambitious surge. But I wish for you, and my blessings for us all this year, is that the weight of our times, which, by the way, in my slightly neurotic conspiracy theory brain, I believe is intentional by some of the powers that be, that wish no change, right? This church is not an organization of no change or of holding on to ritual for the sake of consistency. This is a progressive group. And by progress, we mean that we embrace change as is required by our quest for justice and the pull forward into a better way of life. So my blessings for you is that you all find something this day, this hour, this service that raises you up, so that the weight of inertia frees you to choose whether you plunge headlong into the new and embrace the old things that are loving and familiar, to give you the best balance and judgment about how to approach this next whatever phase it is that you're currently facing. Bless you all.
And now Jeannie will sing a song with us. Welcome, Jean Gasca, my good dear friend.
Good morning. I'm going to sing with you, hopefully, Micha Mocha. I've sung this before. There's a wonderful yada dai 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 part that you can sing along with. You don't need to know any words. The song is the story. It recounts the miraculous rescue by God of the Israelites as they fled from Egypt, from slavery. And by opening up the sea, by splitting the sea so that the Israelites could escape from the Egyptian army. And I'd like to do this song in honor of our own rescuing ourselves from emotional inertia. I love that, Barry. I love that phrase. We all know what that is. We all know what it feels like. And for different reasons, we have been there recently. And so let's sing. Yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 mi chamocha bailim Adonai mi chamocha nedar bakodesh noratilo Osefele, Malchut hara uvanecha, Bokeyam lifnei Moshe. Malchut hara uvanecha, Bokeyam lifnei Moshe. Here we go again. Yada die 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 yada die die die. Yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 die. Zayzayli amuve'ameru Adonai Eloh Leolam Leolam Bakeh Yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da 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 Yada da 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 yada da da da. Die, da, die, die, da, die, die. Bene mahar ki farad Yaakov, egalo miyad haspag mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch hu Shemo.
Thank you. Beautiful, Jean. That's so really beautiful. And thank you so much, Barry. That message was so applicable in so many different ways. And to now we have community sharing, so you're able to make a brief statement or to ask Barry a question if you like. I'm sure there was a lot in there. I mean, there's a lot for me. There was. I never, even though I knew what happened to you, Barry, when you talk about the fact that it was only 6 months ago, first of all, and that they were holding your heart and that you knew what they were going to be doing the day before, it must have been something else. And I cannot imagine that. So anyway, Craig, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Barry, you talked a lot about, I guess you could say, trauma and how, we are visited upon by tragedy in all of this. And I think if I heard you correctly, part of that recourse was the allowance of family, to more or less do that. And I'm trying to get a sense of how much of spirituality speaks to the whole concept of sharing and healing that trauma, if indeed you could speak to that. I'm in search of something that is, speaking to that issue.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Craig. I will try. It's good to see you and to hear from you, Craig. As always, I look forward to our micro discussions that we get to have here. It's lovely. Someday I'm going to sit down and break a full loaf of bread with you, Craig, so we can actually have a long talk. I'll make that work out. I think that so my spirituality has no container. It's bigger than all of the spaces, and so it crosses the liminal spaces as well. So I will answer that question in 3 quick parts. My spirituality draws me backwards. When I hear Mi Kamocha, I think of the cantor that sang it in my childhood, who was a famous cantor. I think of the taste of my grandmother's honey cake. All of these things are so associated with my love of God and spirituality. And God also, the aspirational qualities of Judaism draw me forward into the future, because we know the world is broken. It's a fundamental concept of the Jewish cosmology that in the creation of the physical world, God was this world, the spirit of this world was broken. And one of the purposes of humanity is to repair. So that slow arc of justice is the Jewish call to the future. And I think that ultimately the release from trauma comes from my dependence on my spiritual nature to relieve me of the weight of the world, of the substance and pressure of the world, which is the responsibility of the friction and the gravity that holds me in its inertia. Now, that happens to me when I'm on a beautiful hike and when I hear beautiful music and when I see beautiful smiles in this community. It makes me realize that we're something other than primates with clubs. And it makes me realize that our meat and our flesh is only part of who we are. And it makes me realize that our spirit can be lifted upwards. So that's how my spirituality impacts the three facets of the reality that I spoke to today. And yes, you are keen to find that the underground of all of that is trauma, right? That there's the trauma of life. If we were in a perfect space in a perfect world and all of our needs were met, none of these things would be necessary. But it ain't perfect, so that's that. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Barry. Bob.
Thank you for your talk, Barry. I've been thinking a good bit about liminality, and I think it's come up in our services as a frequent theme recently. And one of my thoughts about it, let me use your example as part of my thinking. Right now, I'm quite healthy, and we can never predict the future, but I have no particular reason to worry that tomorrow I will be stricken by something. I could be, but I have no particular reason to worry. Whereas in your situation, if I were facing heart surgery tomorrow, I would have plenty of reason. All of a sudden, the unpredictability of my future has gotten sort of drastic. I'm in danger, in other words. And I feel as if culture-wide, at any point in history, the future is somewhat predictable and somewhat unpredictable. It's not totally either way, but sometimes the stakes are a lot higher. The dangers are more powerful. And right now, it seems to me, both in terms of the politics of this country, don't even say our country, because it belongs to the ruling class so much, as Linda often reminds us, but the politics of this country, but also things like, we're in a drastic unpredictability. Things could go very, very badly, but they might not. There is hope. But in addition to that, we have climate change is tremendously threatening. And the changes it could bring could be extremely drastic, And I also worry a great deal about artificial intelligence as a power that could change things greatly, and I don't trust that power is in the hands of people, either government or corporations, who have the common good in mind. So I think we're all in an unusually, what you could call liminal space, where we really don't know what to expect. And it's very uncomfortable, but we do have to find courage to move forward in positive ways in the face of all this. I'd welcome any comment you have on that, what I said.
I think what you said was beautiful, and I think you're correct. I think that life is robust in this moment. Here we are together. It's a robust space, and we feel the love of each other, and we're alive and breathing. And maybe some of us have had a rough morning, and some of us have had a blessed morning. But I think that what's interesting about reality to me is that we only scoop a tiny thimble of reality into our perceptions. And I think that we get to pick, in some ways, by the nature of our focus, you could say anybody's heart could just stop working at any moment. It happens. And the human life is both fragile and, a virus that has overtaken the world. It just depends on how the angle that you are looking at it in. So I defer to the pragmatic, which is I can look at the world as a bunch of molecules or as a bunch of metaphors. It depends on what is useful in that thing, in that challenge. So, I had a philosophical wake up this year, but I also had a physical one. I had to get some things done and had to change the way in which I was living my life. I was being called to change. So I guess really my response is that the one thing I know for sure that the human spirit can do is shine outwards into the soup of all things and pick the thimbleful that is most useful for that moment. That is the blessing of free will. And so that my recommendation for you is, Bob, that you have this blessing that you have health. So that frees you then to look at the next challenge. And so I think that I think the reason why this message is so universal is we're chronically challenged and chronically blessed and chronically stuck, always in equal measures. And it just takes a tiny tilt of that balance to rush forward into some new balance. And if you can do that with will and with free will, then you can navigate to where you're trying to get to. I don't know if that responds to you, but I just love what you said. So I didn't really feel like I needed to answer you.
Well, I think you're reminding us of our agency, and I agree that that's that's a blessing that we can help us move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Thank you. And thank you, Barry. It's fortunate that I want to echo a lot of what Bob said and not repeat it. And particularly the question of agency, which I don't know if this is true or not. I'll ask my daughter-in-law this afternoon, who actually knows Mandarin, but I have been told that the Chinese character for crisis includes both the character of danger and the character of opportunity. I think that's true, but
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check with Vanessa today. She actually speaks the language, but anyway, that speaks to the question of agency, and which in fact is all we got. Actually, right? I mean, that's what we got. So that's. But what I really wanted to say is something more personal. That I feel like I'm living in a liminal space right now. And I was thinking about the welcome. I do not identify either as married or as single, actually. And I don't know if I identify as widowed. My husband died 16 days ago. And I don't know if this is a permanent or a liminal space. I don't know if at some point I will say that I am single. I certainly don't feel that way now. But what I do know is that there are times when, like it or not, things change, and you have an opportunity. One has an opportunity to gather all the resources available to change, to grow, to use whatever happens for good, and to you know, the moment that I'm going through is singular in my life, but I think in a broader sense, life brings us lots of these opportunities that we have not asked for, but that we can use them to intentionally and purposefully, you know, for transformation and for good.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Louise.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Barry, that was such a great talk. I could speak right now for about 15 minutes and not get tired of the concepts that you've brought up. And most of it would be very personal. And so I just want to say I'm really sorry for your surgery and happy for your healing. I myself have been going through quite a few medical issues that are not life-threatening, but there's a lot of them, and I have to do protocols for all of them. And you know, I know after I talk, I'm gonna say I want to wish I had said this or wish I had said that, but of course, there's no time to say everything. But these medical issues that caused me such anguish when I first found out, each one, there was one after another, doctor telling me, it has propelled me to be in a healthy self-care and propelled me to go outside of my comfort zone because since retiring, you know, there's a part of me that just wants to be in a comfort zone and watch TV, you know, and it's not healthy. I know that. So sometimes I think, what did I bring this on myself by being too sedentary? And now I really have the problems they talk about from being too sedentary. So, but anyway, I loved your talk. There's so much I want to say. Also, I got a hit, like a flash on my own mortality one day in a way that I had never experienced. And it was frightening and depressing, you know, and you know, but we can't spend too much time on that. I still have to find the joy of life to keep going. So I love what you said about the 3 levels, and I want to just say them. The level of the upward trend, the trend for wanting comfort, and that is a big one for me as a single 75-year-old who's never really had a good partnership in life. It's very difficult to find, you know, comfort in that area. And then there's the inertia, our comfort zone. And sometimes I'll do things and I'll be afraid, and then I think, oh, you're just going outside of your comfort zone, and that's a good thing. So I think I'll stop there, even though I want to talk for about half an hour. So thank you.
Yeah, both of your comments also sort of touch on grief, which is, of course, one of my areas of interest. And I think one of the reasons why it's hard to move forward into the new space when you're in the liminal is the grief of the loss of the last space. And because whatever that thing was, at least it was familiar, you know, it's part of the cycle of abuse. You know, that's part of it. It's part of the cycle of addiction, is this retreat, this wave-like function of time and of loss that we just don't wish to move on, because at least we know what it is that we're going to be faced with. So I think the sort of the answer to all of those things is to live lightly. And for me, the thing that has helped me most release myself from the stuck feelings is my meditation practice and my encounters with Buddhist philosophy and also Jewish cosmology, which is the notion that we are both the most important thing of the universe, our souls, and are precious, but we're also one of many. And those two contradictions also balance this notion that our personal experience and the universal experience are both equally important, and that helps, I think, the rotation of this cycle of the liminal space. I hope, did that make any sense? It's a little abstract.
It's great.
Yes. Thank you so much. Jean.
Well, you just actually partially answered my question, but I'm going to ask it again because it's a big one
Okay.
for me. And it's that stuck space.
Mhm.
Because there are certain stuck spaces where I can talk to myself and I know I can move forward, and it passes in a short amount of time. I can say to myself, I know this will pass too. And there are other times when it's almost like getting sucked into a whirlpool where you don't even realize that it's happening, and all of a sudden you're being pulled down and down and down, and it's hard to climb out. And I was wondering what you say to your clients about that kind of a space, which is, it's a panicky space. It's like, how can I be here? I know better than this.
Yeah.
I can get out of this, and then I don't.
Gosh, there's 1,000 ways I could answer that. I'll just answer it with this. It takes radical self-compassion. It takes a radical approach to forgiveness of the self, and to one of the things, we're on this treadmill of karma, and we're on this treadmill of these cycles of the liminal. And one of the things that can free us from those things is the capacity to remind the self that there is no true stuck moment, that we are always free to change the content and quality of our thinking and our lives. When I have a client that's really, really stuck in depression, I just have a new client, very stuck, lifetime of chronic mental illness. And he's just saying over and over, I just don't see a way out. And what I say to that kind of a client, and my response to you is, just start moving your feet. And you don't even have to believe it, and you don't have to feel it, and you don't have to like it. And it can be horrible even to do those things, but you make no progress without the forward motion, and you cannot update your tank of compassion while you are frozen. So the first thing has to be action. It's always action. Before the mood comes the action. Before the mood comes the action. So that's my response.
Wow.
Oh, that's marvelous. That reminds me of something that I learned in a group. When talking to myself, I can say, I'm having difficulty being compassionate with myself right now. And that's what helps me start moving my feet.
Yes, because that's observing self-ego. We call it in the psychoanalytic world. Like you pinch off a little piece of your spirit and then turn it towards the self. And as long as it's not the inner critic, it's the inner lover. That is because that rises you up. It just takes you up a level, and it allows you to observe and to give that compassion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're so amazing, Barry. Thank you. Chaplain Joseph.
Yes, thank you very much. I just had the thought that when we are in situations of grief and pain and hurt, that situation within us, within our own consciousness, within our own self, that helps us to cope with the grief of the world, the grief of the outside. So we should not accentuate too much our own grief and bemoan our own grief, although it is hard not to. But it helps us to create balance between the grief within us and the grief that we see outside in the world. And it is that very balance that will help us to begin to overcome. Because I see all of this from looking at the stars in the sky, including our own sun, which is a star, the way they survive for so long is that if there's too much pull from the outside and not too much pull from inside, they're going to explode. And if there's too much pull and too much energy from the inside, and that overcomes the energy from the outside, they're going to implode. So all the stars survive that long because they are in balance. They create a balance between the pull from outside and the push from inside. So it is that balance that we as human beings create ourselves, have to manage ourselves, you know. So that is one way of looking at it. I could go on myself, but that is kind of one way of looking at it.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think that the ultimate goal for our mission here on this earth is to be able to see all of these things in equal measure. The world outside us, just like the star needs these balanced forces. The perfect balance are great thinkers and the great lovers and the great poets are able to maintain this this equality of thought, the internal, the external, the future, the past. And once you do that, when it's all set right, it elevates you into this really beatified space where all meanings are one, right? Where we are all one, but we are all distinct. All those contradictions start to meld and to coexist. And when that happens, it turns out that if you just pull back, there truly are no liminal spaces, right? That you're always in between all the spaces. And you're always fully in all of the spaces. So that's the big picture right there.
Wow, thank you. Okay, is it Daria?
Funny, you already know it's me.
Well, you were coming forward, so there's a hint.
So I want to respond to both Jean Gasca and then Barry's comment on Jean Gasca's comment. Jean Gasca, you mentioned that you could argue a liminal space between what you know you want to do and continuing to do what you were previously doing, and there's that space between. I would argue, in accordance with the line of thinking that, say, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg talked about, but that liminal space is an opportunity to mourn what you may want to let go of in replace of what it is you want to do moving forward. And I think before we get to what Barry is talking about, the inner lover versus inner critic and the radical self-compassion, I would say that maybe there needs to be a space to mourn and to sit with whatever the feeling is. And then you can say, okay, I've adequately mourned this. I can then choose to move forward in the way that you want to.
Yep. Yes.
So,
yes, 100%. There is, but what I would say is to join it all together. Also, is that really what frees you is having all of those things. You should be always mourning the passing of time. You know, each minute that you don't move towards the thing that you're meant to be, you can mourn it, and you can also appreciate it as rest. You can also regret and also treasure. So you can love and lose. Like all of those things are always, they're just oppositions. And grief is a part of growth. It's an integral, it's the container of growth. You don't move anything. Even if it's a joyous advancement, there's still a part of you that is fearful and regretful of moving past the present.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for sharing. What what a beautiful morning and beautiful time of sharing. I think, Barry, you're able to somehow talk both general and very specific to each person. It's an amazing way of doing that. I just really am struck by the fact that the liminal spaces are so difficult. Or when you realize, when you actually realize you're in one, but then when you said they're actually happening all the time, it's so true, because otherwise none of us are ever living in a static time, and it's good because but sometimes we think back to another time as if it is a static time, and we think that was a better time because, like, look how great everything was. No, we were always in a liminal time, but sometimes it is more dramatic than others, like when you were about to have your heart taken out of your body. And sometimes we're in a space where we know it's going to be different in a bit. But the fact that we all have agency is so important, because especially at the times we realize that we're in a liminal space, then we can say we do have a choice now, how we're going to react and what we're going to, how we're going to, which foot we're going to put forward first. But the other thing is we can be more resilient because we know we've been here before. We always are here. And so that's comforting in the fact that we're never stuck. I mean, we're never stable. We're never really stable. And so when we're not stable, we should remind ourselves we're never stable. So it's not a new thing. And so anyways, I want to thank you so much. This has been a very rich morning, and as usual. And so we really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me be a part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barry. And thanks everybody for your vulnerability and your honesty and your shares. I want to sing now a song by Maggie Wheeler. She is an interesting, wonderful person. She played Janice on the show Friends. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but she had a great side funny character on Friends, but she's also a fantastic singer, songwriter, choir director in LA. All right, let's see if I'm ready to sing here. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm sad, maybe I'm mad, maybe that's why my body feels bad. Maybe I'm sad, maybe I'm hurt, maybe my brain's on high alert. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll shout, maybe I'll let my feelings out. Maybe I'll stand in the rain, maybe I'll let go of my pain. Maybe I'll trust, maybe I'll pray, maybe that's how I'll find my way. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing. Yeah. Maybe I feel dark despair, maybe that's why I can't get air. Maybe I'm laden down with grief, maybe that's why I need relief. Maybe I'll cry, maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll let my true voice ring. Maybe I'll see, maybe I'll let myself be free. Maybe I'll dance, maybe I'll run, maybe I'll stand out in the sun. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing. Maybe I'm sad, maybe I'm sad, maybe that's why my body feels bad. Maybe my heart needs to grieve, maybe that's why it's hard to breathe. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll shout, maybe I'll let my feelings out. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll see, maybe I'll let myself be free. Maybe I'll trust, maybe I'll pray, maybe that's how I'll find my way. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing. Maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing, maybe I'll sing. Not maybe, I will sing.
Beautiful. I want to end, or I want to close with the benediction, which is actually a reading for the fall equinox. Blessed are you, O Divine One, maker of the falling leaf, bringer of the harvest, and of gathering rest. When so much is out of balance, flood and famine, garbage and greed, you quietly continue mending the world, fashioning first frost, restoring balance. Blessed are you, golden light of sustenance, shadow of grace. Amen. Please unmute yourself, and we will grab hands with one another. Soon to be in real life. And we say together, carry on. 1, 2, 3.
Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.